we're modeling behavior for our kids' generation. No. The kids are not watching the World Economic Forum. The kids are watching Stranger Things Season 5, Episode 8, and trying to decide whether or not it means something that the potentiometer that Robin uses to increase the power at the radio station she works at, having different colored triangles on the indicator, is indicative of Vecna having taken over the entire episode. They're not paying attention to the World Economic Forum. Children's awareness of international diplomacy leaves room in the thimble for the rest of your picky tip. It's silly. And it's an effort by a guy who is acknowledging Donald Trump is effective. Is he always the nicest guy in the room? No! And that has not been in question since long before he ran for president. People didn't vote for him to be a nice guy. They voted for him to be an effective guy. European leadership understands exactly what they're doing. And if you want to violate the Goldwater rule and start diagnosing narcissism, Mr. Governor, I have bad news. They're calling from inside the House. Gavin Newsom being at this forum is, of course, just further evidence of Gavin Newsom's ambition to eventually be the American president. Gavin Newsom's inability to reconcile reality with his own little solipsistic worldview is, in my mind, proof that the guy's not fit for the Oval Office. Not that I ever thought he was, but it's one more piece of evidence that Newsom is thinking far too small. This is a provincial mind. To think that European leaders need to fall into line with Democratic talking points and priorities. That they need to come out and defend the American Democrat Party rather than doing business with the guy who's got the job for another 3 years. And that's the absolute bottom line. Donald Trump is going to be president for another 3 years. Today is the day, my friends. Today was the 1-year anniversary of his re-inauguration as the 47th president of the United States. We are exactly 3 years away from the conclusion of the Trump administration. And between now and then, European leadership is going to want to improve trade. They are going to want to improve diplomacy. They are going to want to improve security. And the way that Trump's going about it, do I think that it's the tidiest, most professional statecraft I've ever seen? No, I don't think that it is. That's not how Donald Trump does business. And we've been hammering this point since the beginning of his first administration. Go read Art of the Deal. You can understand a lot about the guy and how he does business. Donald Trump likes for the people on the other side of the table in any negotiation to be uncertain, to be off balance. And does that read as belligerence in the media? Yeah, because that's how he keeps getting press. The insistence on reporting not on the results of his policies, not on the results of his negotiations, but instead reporting on Donald Trump did a mean thing on social media. If anything, it's increased the drag. Look, if you don't like the way Trump does business, you're entitled to that opinion. If you love it all day and nothing can change your mind, you're entitled to that opinion. And Gavin Newsom is absolutely entitled to his opinion. My hope is that Gavin Newsom's opinion is not shared by the majority of Americans. Because Gavin Newsom's leadership, if you want to talk about failures in leadership, look at what's happened to the state of California since he moved into the governor's mansion. We went from a budget surplus to a budget deficit. The state's overall deficit has increased under his leadership. The cost of housing has gone up. The cost of living has gone up. The cost of gasoline has gone up. The homeless population has gone up. About the only thing that's gotten better in California since Gavin Newsom has gone into that office is our overall violent crime statistics. And even there, I'm wary. What happens when you stop describing carjackings as carjackings if they don't involve somebody sticking a gun in somebody else's face, and you ignore every time somebody went in with a knife or an iron pipe or scared the hell out of an old lady and got her to surrender the car without a weapon? being played in these statistics. And they're being played because Gavin Newsom believes that simply closing a prison and turning the inmates loose is the same thing as solving crime. The audacity required to show up at the World Economic Forum and tell the actual world leaders that they're not doing their job right, that they're not being hard enough on a guy that they have to do business with. And look, is it possible for the EU as an economic bloc to function without the United States? Sure, it's possible. It means they got to get into bed with China. I don't see the EU swinging out that way. Now, if things were truly unbearable, if things were truly unacceptable, you would see China getting involved in a lot more conversation with European Union leadership. That doesn't mean that they're never going to talk to China. It doesn't mean they're not going to explore the possibilities. We've got at least 3 European leaders on the calendar to sit down with Xi Jinping over the course of the next quarter. Part of the reason that that's happening is because they themselves are in the older political style, trying to generate the impression of pressure for President Trump so that when they sit down with him, in that atmosphere of chaos that he has deliberately created, intentional, they want to sit down and be able to say, well, you know, we have talked with China about buying our soybeans or buying our scotch or buying our watches, whatever. They need to have that chip in their pocket. What they don't need is a guy who wants that job trying to tell them how to do their job. You want to talk about disruptive and disrespectful and undermining of all of the treaties and negotiations that we've gotten into. Being obnoxious on social media, look, it is different. It is not the way that politics and statecraft has been conducted historically. The American people didn't vote for a continuation of historical precedent. They voted for a president that would be disruptive. And Donald Trump has consistently been disruptive. We've actually got some polling, and Karl Rove hits on a couple of points. Fox News also diving in on this. And the Karl Rove commentary, it could be spun as, hey, look out, Trump's going to lose Texas. But Lee Carter over at Fox News really hits at the heart of everything that's wrong with Gavin Newsom's take. We'll get to that after we get to traffic with Michael Reed in the KMJ Traffic Center.
Just north of Chowchilla, we have a 2-vehicle accident involving a big rig northbound 99 at Sandy Mush Road. Here in Fresno, we have a 2-vehicle accident at Maple and McKinley Avenues. And east of Fresno, we have that stalled big rig on Kings Canyon Road at Temperance Avenue.